Okay, so just an overview of your holiday homework that is due for Unit 3, Outcome 1B, which is the practical aspect of your environmental design section. So there are three things to support you here. We've got the task overview. So if we open this one up, it should look like this. And if we scroll down, you've got your overview here of the brief of what it is that you're designing, which is a cafe info kiosk for Kakadu National Park. If we scroll down, you can see page 1. Okay, so what you need to start to do here is create a section called Context for Design, where you investigate and record details about the location and climate of Kakadu National Park. So if you see here, we have the exemplar, which if you click on and open will look like this. This can be taken up as a whole page or just a section at the top of your research section. So here you can see they've spoken about climate, they've talked about the flora and fauna that they need to consider when building, and spoken about the kind of aspects of building on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander land or country. So this is key information you will use when it comes to actually designing that house. Okay, so if we come back and we have a look at pages 2 and 3, this is where you investigate 3 different designs from similar climates around the world. So you're looking for hot desert climates where architecture has been created. So simple way to do that, look up the world, look up a map, and look at particular areas of the world, the Middle East, Africa, South America, where else can we think? Australia as well, but I'd be looking global, so you can draw on those ideas. If we go over to the exemplar, you can see they've looked at Iranian architecture, they've looked at Central Asia as well, so they've looked at Indian architecture, they've looked at Death Valley in America, but I want you to expand. I don't want you to just copy these. That is an infringement of the VCAR rules, and you will receive a 0 if you've just copy and pasted information from here. So an image and a paragraph focusing on the materials and the context of these areas and the materials that they have used to combat these particular climates, including flora and fauna. Okay, so very simple. This one here has 1, 2, 3, 4 that they've looked at, but you only have to look at 3. Okay, so you need 3, which you should be able to fit on 1 page, or if you'd like, you can span it over 2 pages. Okay, the next step is to synthesize that information. So what that means is you've done this research for a reason, and if we scroll down, I want you to set up your page similar. I want you to think about landscaping. I want you to think about roofing. I want you to think about the positioning of your building. Think about where the sun rises and sun sets in the Northern Territory. Colours that will either draw in heat and be able to utilise as energy, and colours that won't peel in that kind of climate. Materials that will be successful in surviving that climate for a lengthy amount of time that can be added to your shipping container. Also thinking about techniques that have been used in these buildings to create ventilation. Don't forget this is a very hot climate, but also has a wet season, so thinking about what will be able to survive that. Also thinking about materials that will be able to aid the use of and growth of flora, but also will not impede on the kind of natural habitats of wildlife as well. So these are the things you need to be considering, and you're drawing on your research and then making informed decisions. So you can see here it says no in terms of colours that you shouldn't use and what happens if you do, and colours that you might consider using. You can see here materials that they've considered and why they're considering them. Link it back to your research. So, for example, if you say in Death Valley or in, let's say, Iran, they've used particular materials, whether it's brick or stone to insulate maybe an outside area that you have. That is something you consider, but make sure you say that's where you're drawing those ideas from. Okay. And lastly, we come to the next section, which you see here, generation of ideas. So you can see I'll highlight it, 1 page of idea generation with annotations on 2 concepts only. Okay. This needs to be a 3D 2-point perspective sketch. That is loosely annotated. So you're annotating where those materials you mentioned in this section are being used and thinking about those areas of where people should be sitting, how people will be entering, thinking about where those materials are used in terms of how they'll survive where the sun hits, etc. Okay, so very simple. If I go over it again, you're looking at the context of Kakadu National Park, because that's where your kiosk is. You're researching 3 architectural structures from similar climates around the world, and you're thinking about and getting information on why they've used specific materials or specific building techniques. You're then applying that to a brainstorm of how you could use those materials and techniques. And then lastly, you're sketching your idea, 2 different concepts in 2-point perspective. Okay, this is what's expected to be reviewed in the first lesson back of term 1. If you're not up to date for this, you'll already find yourself in a difficult position falling behind, but I'm sure you'll all be successful, and I'll see you with some great ideas.